Welcome to Modern Comms, the podcast series designed to help communication leaders navigate today's hyperspeed demands and move forward with clarity, confidence, and impact. This podcast is brought to you by cofenster, the creators of AI video agents built specifically for communication professionals. Our agents empower your teams to deliver high impact, on-brand video without needing any prior video experience. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about enterprise internal comms trends, what leading teams are doing in 2026. And joining me for this conversation is Dana Feldhacker, Senior Enterprise Customer Success Manager at Interact. Dana, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. This is going to be really exciting. I love this topic so much. But before we get started, I would love to know a little bit about your background and your role at Interact.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the Senior Manager for Customer Success for our enterprise accounts here at Interact. I spend my days partnering with enterprise organizations to help them modernize how they communicate internally. Really what I love most about this role is I sort of have a front row seat to how the employee experience is evolving and how communications is becoming the true driver of culture and performance in these huge organizations.
Fantastic. And because of that front row seat you have, like what are some of the kind of modern internal comms challenges that you're hearing about so often or recurringly from the teams you actually support?
There's lots of different challenges, and it really is specific to all of the different industries. So if you're working at a company that has a lot of frontline workers, how are we reaching those frontline workers? How are we giving them opportunities to look up content that they need on the fly, to make the content digestible for them to actually, understand it on the fly? And on the flip side of that, people who need to understand really complex content or rollouts of new processes and procedures, how is that being communicated? And how do we make sure everyone in the organization gets the same communication when we need them to? And how do we make sure we personalize communication for all different people in the organization? So I definitely don't envy internal comms folks. They have a lot of challenges, and it's just essentially this change management, constant communication, and constantly, do people know what they need to know? Are we pushing out what's most important for them? I would say that's the biggest challenge for sure.
Wow, great. And are you seeing some specific shifts happening because of these challenges right now? And if so, what are like the biggest shifts that you might be witnessing from your vantage point?
Definitely. I would say that employees expect communication to feel really personalized for them and more, I would say, like consumer grade, right? People are used to YouTube videos now, Instagram Reels, TikToks, things like that, short form, authentic human content. And they're increasingly becoming disengaged with more long form emails, static updates, which is really like the bread and butter of professionally how we've been communicating. So that's definitely a shift that comms teams are up against today. And there's also this decentralization of communication that's happening. Communication can't just really come from one team anymore. People want to hear from leaders, they want to hear from their frontline managers, and even employees themselves can be the ones sharing and adding content in a lot of ways. So platforms like Interact make that possible. We have structure to do that. We have governance and personalization at scale that sort of allows companies to lean into that shift that they're feeling. And then, of course, there's a lot of shifts happening with AI. AI everywhere, AI in everything, and I'll just leave AI at that for now, because that could be a whole other podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually something that we're seeing from our side too. It's not just when we connect with comms leaders, but also with other teammates to kind of learn about their experience. And what we've been hearing, which I think something that you actually touched on just now, is the interest in trying to match some of their offline consumption of content and information with how they're absorbing information in the workplace of the now, where they go, I just want to consume it differently. Like I can retain information from YouTube, from all these other sources, but then you're just giving me this gigantic deck of information, and I'm going to shortcut it by going into a chat and summarizing what that whole thing says, which
Yeah.
isn't probably what the comms leaders even wanted to do, because they curated it in a very specific way, and then it was just absorbed into a different platform to then be summarized anyway.
Yep.
So it really resonates with me what you're saying about how they're wanting to adopt those kind of modern out of office channels as well.
Right. Yeah. You have to speak to everyone, and not everyone sits at a desk and has a big two-screen setup like I have here and has time to read a long form article every day. And a lot of people do, and that's great to have that. But communications teams they need to be more flexible because they can be more flexible.
And are you seeing some specific trends and new behaviors from some of the more forward thinking or mature comms teams, and how they're tackling these kind of challenges, or how they're adopting new methods to create these connection points?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say really forward thinking comms teams are really treating communications more like a strategic function and not like just an output function. They're not looking at this communication and saying, this is the message, and so here's the message written out for you here in an email. That's really just sort of like an output. But they need to be thinking more strategically about how they're disseminating that communication. They're really intentional about who needs what and when. Not all communication is meant for everyone, so personalizing that for them. And then using platforms to segment by audience, automate delivery, measure engagement also on how things are being engaged and how things are being consumed. Like, did this actually hit with my target audience or not? Maybe this kind of communication does do really well in a long form way versus a short form way, and just going back and iterating on that. They know their jobs is really at the end of the day to enhance employee experience and engagement. So they understand that the business outcomes directly relate to how they are communicating. And like I said, it's really more of a strategic play for them of how can I communicate this in the best way for my audience.
Very good. And are you seeing kind of a difference between how the more high performing comms teams are doing versus the ones who are probably still catching up, let's say?
Yeah, I would say they're more of the thought leaders, right? They're those early adopters. They're the ones going in there and saying, well, we have never really done video before, and we don't have a lot of video maybe currently in our communication strategy or in our intranet, but we know the trends and we know what people want, and so we're going to try that. It's those early adopters that really become the high performers because they figure out what works and they iterate constantly. They test, they learn, they refine. It's not just like a set it and forget it for them.
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
This is an era where there's all these new challenges come, and so the ones who embrace experimentation will probably be the ones that find the new, unique routes to success faster, while the
Yeah.
other ones can just watch, I guess, is how you highlight with thought leaders. It's like, let's watch the high performers, see if they've figured it out, and then we can follow and adopt.
Right.
Great. And we were touching on AI. We can't avoid that, of course. But like, it's just in
More.
general. Yeah. What role do you think technology and AI is playing right now to help these teams scale their efforts and reach even diverse employee groups more effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, technology is everything in what we all do nowadays. Large organizations simply can't reach the diverse and global and also multi-generational workforces without it. Tech helps specifically, from my perspective, with targeting when we're communicating, with governance on communication, with channel orchestration, and also creation. I mean, when you look at something like video creation and using AI to help with that and the technology, not necessarily old school. We're here with a video camera and we're creating a video that way. There's lots of other ways to do it now. That's, a great one. It's a bread and butter, but there's lots of other technology you could use to scale that and make it easier. So I would say tech offers comm teams reach that they've never had before, getting content in front of the right people, relevance also, personalizing it by role and by region and interest, and then also repeatability. So automating some of it, becoming more efficient with something like video creation or content creation in an intranet. So yeah, I would say technology is overarching what we do every day. Leads
And
back.
then I can imagine when they're embracing these kind of new technologies and even experimenting that there's going to be some common pitfalls that they may fall into. It might just be early adoption issues. Are you
Yeah.
seeing some of that as well when there's these tech rollouts in internal comms platforms or even in the channels
Yeah,
themselves?
for sure. I would say major pitfall or challenge is sort of underestimating change management and what it takes to manage a new huge rollout of something like a new piece of tech. When it really fails when it's not adopted correctly. And almost every company that I've worked with over my career in success, which at this point has been many, doesn't really have change management fully figured out. Sorry to anyone listening who is a customer or a former. No one has the silver bullet. No one knows exactly how to communicate perfectly so everyone walks away with the message. So change management is a major pitfall and just it's the nature of the beast. But companies that have a centralized location, one system where everyone knows this is the place to go for information when I need it, do a lot better in this category. So that's a good thing. And I would say another pitfall is just overloading employees with too much information too fast. So a strategic rollout is important. Back to that viewing communication strategically. Rolling out something new is usually just another thing on a team's plate, right? It's not their whole meal. It's just this extra thing that they now need to figure out. So you need to roll it out in more bite-sized pieces for people to digest rather than shoving everything in front of them all at once and hoping that they have the time and energy and capacity to retain it.
That makes perfect sense because there's this where AI gives a lot of benefits. I think that sometimes we can produce an overabundance of competent, confident looking content
Yeah.
and expect people to like find the actual meaning within it. Because when we review it, like I'll generate it and go, look, it says pretty much everything I meant it to say, but it just overdoes it. And people will
Long.
just bring that in. So that comes into the content as well. And then the channels too. So like there's what we're seeing is there's a definite remixing and rethinking of the channel mix.
Yeah.
But from your vantage point, like how do you see these enterprise comms teams rethinking their mix of channels when it comes to 2026 in particular?
Yeah, for sure. Back to that AI comment, I can't tell you the amount of times I've asked AI to do something for me, and then my follow-up question is again, but like two sentences, like just give me the quick hit. What is it actually? Give me the summary. So yeah,
Great, great instinct, and that's exactly the kind of questions that you should be asking. You're like, yeah, I know.
yeah, right, yeah, you get it. I know I'm really good at asking you to do the work. Um, exactly. Okay, back to channel mix. I would say comms teams in this year, trends for 2026 is thinking less in terms of like email versus intranet, right? And those things really go hand in hand, and more in terms of like experience journeys. Where is the content going to land? How is it going to be consumed? How do we reinforce it across multiple touch points? Which channels for which people? And also video is becoming a super hot topic, a super hot channel. Again, if you're not already in video, the question is, why are you not? Where is the video and when is it going to come? It's no longer like, is that something we're going to do? It's when are we going to do that? So that's definitely a channel that is, if you're not really there yet, you're a little bit behind as a communicator, and it's time to sort of start figuring that out. Are you going to embed it in your intranet, surface it in your feeds, share it in chats, share quick leadership updates with video versus that one long leadership update that comes once a month or once every 3 months. So it's figuring out what channels are lacking and making sure we're hitting all of them for everyone.
I think when you touch on video, we can kind of go back to even the experimental side of things for comms leaders in 2026, because historically they just haven't really had the capacity or the experience to create video. But as cofenster have AI video agents, it's been really rewarding being able to show them like what they can actually do themselves within their department without the prior video experience, and just even learning from them when they start coming to us saying, this is what I've done. I've actually created a video summarizing where to find things within the intranet. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of that. You can use video to explain where things are located. Because as you say, the channel mix, a lot of times people just don't know that there's a area or a space already created to get this information. You could actually experiment, or you can generate a video that explains it, or do a video that can be edited for you where it's more authentic and you could actually just describe what the new functionality is for your new channels for the quarter or for the year going into it.
Yeah, and creating video for the first time is sort of like when everyone started using AI for the first time and they didn't really know where to start. They were starting very simply with very simple questions and then realizing how much they could do and how much AI could do for them. It's similar with video. If you haven't created a lot of video before, it's like first you're just thinking of the very low-hanging fruit, examples, and then once you start creating, you start thinking about all of the different opportunities that you have to add video and all of the things that you would have never thought of before, like using it to show people how to find other content, not just using it for content, period, right?
Yeah. And are you seeing some new creative approaches when it comes to video, like internal podcasts, like interactive content, like short form video? Are you seeing that from your side of the fence, basically?
Yes, definitely. I would say definitely like short form, bite-sized videos are the most consumable, the most watched, but also short form videos from people you might have not heard from before in the organization. So utilizing tools to get executives in some of these short form videos is really impactful. I think in really large organizations, which are most of the organizations that I work with, I would say most of the employees don't maybe feel a connection to their C-suite or don't know where their C-suite is coming from and some of the decisions that they make. So to be able to, like I said earlier, kind of democratize that a little bit and give the executive the ability to deliver a short form message. They don't have to wait until, this all hands meeting that happens 2 months from now, and this decision is on the back of everyone's mind, and maybe hear from them today on why this is being rolled out this way today. Opens up that sort of two-way communication that's important for employees to feel really connected to the job.
Yeah, true. And then what we can also see too is in those all hands, the leader will then ask, does anybody have any questions? Which is a very difficult space for people to ask questions. Like
sure.
Even from,
if you're brave
even
enough.
yeah, even when I'm doing a webinar, you have to really encourage people to ask a question. Because a lot of times people don't want to be the first one. They don't want to be kind of singled out. But then from the leader's perspective, oh, I must have gotten my point across perfectly because there's no questions. So that tells me they've understood, when really there's probably loads of questions, but in that space, they didn't feel comfortable to ask. Whereas those kind of videos can help answer questions in shorter bursts that kind of give people a bit more insight, which I think is really exciting.
Right. And then if that video lives in a specific page, in your intranet, and then there's commenting in there, and then people could ask questions, and there could be people moderating those questions and answering. It's just, it's definitely a safer format for delivery and for clarification for some people.
Yeah, and even in advance, you can do the question gathering, and that can turn into its own
Hmm.
video. Then is like, this is my
Yeah.
response to the questions, the anonymous questions that we have received. Which is
Yeah.
great because nobody has to really put their name behind it. Again, it's nice in a space if you can be transparent, but understanding the different personalities in any given team, you also want to give shy, introverted, or kind of anxiety prone people a chance to ask questions in a safe, comfortable manner so
Yeah.
they can feel like they're included as well.
Yeah. Totally.
And then we can flip over to metrics as
Hmm.
well. So, what are the kind of metrics that you're seeing from the successful enterprise customers, like the kind of metrics that they're tracking right now?
Right. That is a loaded question, I would say. Um, Seems like a simple question, but every customer has such different business outcomes when it comes to their internet and their communication. So it's really a loaded question, but I'll highlight a few, some of like I would say the most recurring that
Sure.
people really care about. Um, First and foremost, which again is sort of the low-hanging fruit, right? It's content completion, it's views, searches, general information consumption, information gathering for people who are, you know, in their intranet. It's going to be important to teams, right? It's just like, is the content landing, period? And there's lots of different metrics that you can look at to answer that question. Next would be engagement by persona or region. Not only engagement, but specific engagement, right? Like, did this content land for this group of people that it needed to land for versus like
Okay.
company as a whole? Then also sentiment and feedback. Um, Using our pulse tool to quite literally like take the pulse on how people are feeling is is something that people look at, right? Like we communicated this. How do people feel about us communicating that?
Right.
A major change happened, like what do they think? And then measuring sentiment based on the communication that has happened. And then there's also just behavioral outcomes. And that's very specific for every customer, like it goes back to that change management. Like they've communicated this, and then this major behavioral or procedural shift should have happened. That's a very specific metric or specific KPI for that specific customer.
Right.
Um, and then another overall that kind of hits everyone is just general employee retention. It goes back to that employee experience that communications kind of like wears on their shoulders of if employees are connected with the work, they know what they're doing, they know how to get answers, they can hear from executives, they feel they have an open two-way communication through the tools that they use, it helps with that overall employee retention. And we do see an increase in retention when people are implementing something like Interact and a really strong communication strategy through Interact versus if they don't have it at all.
Wow. That loaded question, but yeah, you went into
I have
lots of
loaded
different.
answer too. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It kind of reminds me as well of like the importance of not just having the metrics, but understanding the ones you should track. Like an old
Hmm.
marketing phrase is the only thing worse than no data is bad data. So you don't
Yeah.
want to be looking at the wrong metrics or getting the wrong impression of something and then making key decisions based on that. So it can be difficult to evaluate, but it's critical that you understand how to and what those metrics should be defined as, or even more, that everybody's on the same page as to what the definition of this is. Because one of the unique
100%.
experiences I have with this series is that pretty much most guests I have on the podcast go like, "What's your definition of engagement?" Like they're like, "I have a
Hmm.
definition, you have a definition." So the success rate of that is clearly defined by how we define engagement, which is
Yeah.
quite unique.
We can look at one metric with one, company, something like, okay, I see that someone is taking 1 minute to search and find an answer in the platform. To one customer, that might be amazing. People are going and they're searching and they're finding an answer in 1 minute. To someone else, it
Right.
might be, why is it taking a whole minute? to find this answer. So it's very much specific, company specific and outcome specific. You want people to get in there and get an answer as soon as possible. Do you want people to come in and spend time looking at that, looking at other things? It's just, it's a challenge for us as a team, as a success team, to uncover that for everyone and
Right.
keep track and help them to achieve the outcomes that they want, even if it's like total opposite to the outcome of the next call you have in the day. So,
That's so fascinating. And I bet based on that kind of metrics and the impact of those results, it can actually also impact how internal comms is being evaluated. So, with that in mind, are you seeing any kind of mindset shift happening around how internal comms impact is actually being evaluated for like last year, this year as well?
yeah, for sure. Going back to that, metric on behavioral outcomes, it's not so much just impact is did people see it? Did we get eyes on this? But it's did people understand it? Did people do something because of it? And this is also where video shines, right? It drives clarity and cuts through a lot of the cognitive load that comes with some sort of behavioral shift that needs to happen and makes things a lot more digestible and easier to understand for a lot of learners,
Right.
watching a video versus reading something. So yeah, I would say the impact goes from did people to see it to did people understand it and did they do XYZ because of it?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And it also
Yeah.
kind of brings back into how they're starting to use AI, because not everybody has fully adopted it yet.
Yeah.
But from your side of the fence, with enterprise customers, how do you see them starting to use AI in their internal comms workflows?
Yeah. Definitely becoming, I would say, the silent co-author of a lot of things in intranets, drafting first versions of content, repurposing video content, as you guys do really well, creating multi-language variants instantly. We're using AI for that, of course. Scaling personalization. We also have a really amazing tool called Signal Insights that can give you insights into what people are doing in your internet without going and entering in every page, reading every comment. That would take a whole team of people weeks, and they'd always fall behind if they really wanted to understand the insights of your intranet. Because if you have 100,000 employees posting comments and in your social feed and asking questions all over the internet, it's impossible to look at. But we have a Signal Insight agent that can do that for you now. Like bubble to the top everyone who's asking a legitimate question so we can answer it. Bubble to the top all of the positive feedback and then also all the negative feedback so we can gather it and do something about it. So there's AI coming in all of these different ways beyond just content creation, which is how most people are using it. It's just changing the mindset around AI doing the hard work and heavy lifting for you in all different, facets of your role.
Absolutely. Yeah, like from what we're seeing, because we do the AI video side of
Yeah.
things, and there's a few different versions of it. So you can convert a static document into a dynamic video. It can help somebody request authentic video, or it can also cut a clip into like more of a snackable moment. It's been really fascinating seeing even not just the creation with AI, but the curation of it too. And even translating text into different languages for different regions so you can ensure that the message stays dynamic even through the different departments and different languages that you're trying to get your word across. But from your side, are there any other use cases that you see AI having real staying power with?
Yeah, I would say for sure the video piece of AI. And having had, more than 10 years in video and video creation, I can speak from experience. Your example of just taking a piece of content, static content, and AI creating a video, and then AI creating, let's say, 10 or 15 different language versions for someone who hasn't really worked in video before, I don't think they understand the time, the energy, the money that would actually go into something like that. Just creating one piece of content, first of all, is such a lift. For you need 10 people. You need all of the budgets of the 10 people. You need all of the time of the 10 different people. You need the SME, you need the person who's going to actually create the video. Then you need 15 different, you know, language localizers who will make sure that it's, you know, hitting all of the language. So it's incredible what that can do. So much time saved, so much money saved. So for sure, I see staying power there. Doesn't really make sense to go back to the old way on that one. Maybe for some content, but not all. Definitely not all. Also,
and I can even say it from my vantage point of an editor, as a video editor, and what I can see with AI video, like our AI agents being able to retain the branding instantly in video. It's like, guys, that would take me so long to individually organize and constantly add and make sure that it sits properly, because one of the things we have seen, like in general as society, is people expect a higher quality video no matter what. I think social outside of work has trained us to expect a professional level, and watching what AI can do, I'm like, guys, as an editor, it's actually amazing that you have this ability, because that would take me half a day myself as a fully trained professional editor. And you can just do that instantly. It's like, oh my gosh. And what I love is they're embracing it, and they're, as I said, finding those new, unique use cases themselves, showing it to us, and we're going, we didn't even think of that. Like, that's new. Can we show other customers what you've done here? Like, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And not only can you do it instantly, but with like no prior knowledge or experience. Like, let's not ignore the fact that you're an editor and you've, you know, spent years becoming an editor, and someone with no experience whatsoever can go and do that now. That's pretty incredible. And it's also, you know,
no, go ahead.
Not, I was going to say, just, you know, and I think sometimes people maybe don't like that idea, but it's not about taking the job away from an editor. Your skills are necessary, right? But it's making you so much more efficient.
That's true. However, like, a lot of my experience, especially when it came to comms teams, is they're coming to my department in marketing or content, and then they have to work around my schedule and my backlog. So I'm like, yeah, I would love to. It's just I also have like a lot of these other requirements. So from my side, I think it's incredible watching them get those tools themselves. It makes perfect sense. Like, I still have a other type of output whenever I do edit a video, but getting to see them just even take the more text to video solutions where it turns it into video images with text over it and music. It's like, that's fantastic. So I don't even want to edit that, you know, like I'm not, that's great that you can do that. That's so go shine, just do that. You've got the blessing of an editor right here to tell you that you should be going off and finding as many unique use cases to embrace the idea of getting your point across with video itself.
Yeah.
And then if you had one piece of advice to an internal comms team inside a large, complex organization in 2026, what would that be?
Great question. Another loaded question. I don't know if a comms team, maybe in a large, huge organization, could take this advice, but I would make the advice to be bold in their communication. I think it speaks to the time and the space we're living in. Nothing really shocks us anymore, right? And it's hard to grasp your audience's attention more than ever. And I think written content alone can't really meet the pace and the complexity and the human sort of need of today's workforce, especially as the workforce gets younger and younger every year. One way we can do that is using video. It builds trust and it accelerates the understanding. It brings the leaders closer to the employees. So just being a little bit bolder and thinking outside of the box in the way you're communicating, I think will really accelerate their whole strategy in 2026.
I love that advice because I think that they need it right now because of all the changes that are happening. There might be a worry of going bold and trying to stick with what is familiar, but this is not the time for that. This is
Yeah.
the time to like use new exciting opportunities to show even more of the value that you as a professional and your team as a department can actually deliver. So
Right.
that's wonderful advice.
Thanks.
And then finally, what's
Yeah.
one trend or shift in comms that you're personally excited about right now?
I mentioned it earlier. I'm gonna mention it again. It's the democratization of content creation and putting content creation in the hands of other people other than maybe just like the designated content creators, communicators, subject matter experts of the team, and being able to allow someone who is an expert in their field to go and create content in an intranet, give them author rights to go and do that. Give someone who is not a video creator the ability to go and create a video because you have the tools that can support that. It's just getting different perspectives and different voices in the communication space of your company and not just coming from the same few people everywhere.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's fantastic. All right, now we're going to move on to a game that we like to play at the end of our
Okay.
episodes, which is called Comms Roleplay Q&A. So
Okay.
this is going to be me playing the skeptical CEO who doesn't see the value in comms. You're a
Oh
comms
no.
leader
Okay.
justifying your role, your goals, and your budget. Okay? So I'll ask the
Okay.
hard-nosed questions, and I'd love to hear what your response to these would be. All
Okay.
right, are you ready? So
Mhm.
question number one. What's the plan to make sure employees actually engage and understand the comms this quarter and not just put it on an intranet and hope that they read it?
Great question. As a comms team, we have shifted away from this sort of publish and pray that it works mentality to a more personalized, multi format approach that we know will work. So, using Interact, we could segment messages to employees so they only receive what they need to see, what's relevant to them. It will take away all of the noise that they might get elsewhere. And by layering in short form videos throughout our communication, we make content more engaging and easier to understand. So I would say engagement isn't really luck anymore. It's design, and it comes with that strategic mindset that our communication team has.
Oh, wow. I love that answer. I hope people are taking notes because that's an impactful way to
Did I
answer that
get past
question.
this? The CEO is not a skeptic anymore, or he still
Yeah,
has
no,
questions for me?
that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, next question. You're
Okay.
proposing more comms video in 2026, but how will that actually help the company?
Great question. There are multiple studies that show video improves comprehension, sometimes by up to 95%. Um, Not only does it build comprehension, but it also builds trust in leaders like yourself, accelerates change adoption, it meets employees where they are. So, with video tools, we can also now do that at scale. I'm not going to propose video and also ask for $1 million budget for all of that video. We don't really need to do that anymore, thankfully, like we did have to do 10 years ago. With utilizing video tools, we can distribute, create, measure impact really quickly, really efficiently, and it's really about creating more effective content.
I'm sold. We're bringing video in for this year.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, next question. Are the younger staff actually listening? How
Hmm.
do you in comms propose we actually get through to them?
Um, Start a TikTok? No, I'm just kidding. But kind of. Maybe let's think about this. Thinking about our workforce, we're a lot of millennials and a lot more Gen Zs are coming in, and they're the TikTok generation. They probably won't like that I called them that, but they prefer short, authentic video, and they prefer communication that's direct and to the point, and also empathetic. It's a really sort of empathetic generation. And so having the, messages come from the people that they should come from, like someone like the CEO, like yourself, really matters to them. So I would say that we will utilize formats that they already gravitate towards outside of work, so that the engagement will just naturally follow inside of work. And so it's not really like fighting back to what we know they don't really engage with. It's leaning into what they engage with and trying to weave that into our strategy.
That also makes perfect sense. Don't fight them, just try to invite them, I guess you could say. Great. And final question. Why should we invest in comms when sales, product, and marketing can show ROI faster?
Great question. The soft ROI question is never an easy one to answer, but I would say like every major business initiative that a CEO would have to think about, productivity, retention, customer experience, employee experience, transformation. It all depends on your employees understanding goals, aligning to those goals, and actioning on key messages and actioning on things that you need them to action on. So if they don't know what those goals are, they can't align to those goals and they can't action onto them. So I would say comms is the multiplier sort of within your team to ensure that every department works together. All of those departments that have the easier ROI to measure is aligning to the same goals and actually meets their goals. But if they don't understand that, they don't understand a new rollout, they don't understand what their goals are, they don't know where to go for that information, they can't actually meet those goals and hit those metrics that we know you like to see.
Another great answer. And that's it. That's the game. That was
That's the
fantastic.
game.
Great
Did I
job.
win?
No, you won. Yeah. No, it is really fun. And what I love about that is these are some of the fears and anxieties that even experienced comms leaders have. So just having kind of another perspective on how to answer those questions can be really good, or even pushing back on the premise of a question too, because you don't actually always have to have the answer to that question. But so it's just really nice getting a variety of different perspectives on these very difficult, challenging, and sometimes trapdoor pitfall questions that can arise. So great job.
Thanks. Yeah, and you know what? We hear that a lot. We work with comms teams, so we know sometimes it's difficult for them to show all of the work that they're doing, and we know how hard they're working. We're partnering with them on all that work. So it's our work too, and it's sometimes really difficult to show the ROI or the KPI or the metric that aligns with all of the hard work. It's that soft ROI. It's helping everything, but how can we really measure it? It's a big question that we come across almost daily here.
Great. All right. And we've reached the end of our episode. Dana, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun. Thanks so much.
And finally, before we leave, could you let our audience know a little bit more about Interact?
If you are someone who maybe hasn't modernized your comms yet and you're looking to, I would direct you to check out Interact software. We can help you do that. We partner with cofenster, and we can essentially help you overhaul and modernize your entire communication strategy through our intranets.
And for the listeners, we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments if there's any specific questions you might have relating to this topic, or if you have any topic requests you'd like to hear in the future. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn as well at cofenster, on YouTube, and we're on Spotify and Apple Podcast as well for Modern Comms itself.